Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something so many people face, it's honestly frustrating. You feel worn out, maybe anxious, your head's foggy. You might even be having panic attacks, but you go to the doctor, you get the labs, and everything looks fine. They say your thyroid's okay, but you know something's off.
It's a really common and really invalidating experience. People
Mm.
feel dismissed.
Exactly. Well, our sources today point towards this hidden number, a metric that might just explain this whole mystery. It's apparently a critical ratio. It tells us what's really happening inside your cells, not just what's floating around in your blood. It's the difference between feeling good and feeling like you're running on empty.
Yeah, and that hidden metric is the T3 to reverse T3 ratio, usually just called the T3 point error T3 ratio. Now, this isn't typically part of your standard thyroid checkup, which is, well, a problem, but it's absolutely key for understanding what's happening at the cellular level. If this ratio is out of whack, it strongly suggests you could be starved of T3 inside your cells, even if your main thyroid hormone levels look perfectly normal on paper. This ratio connects those persistent symptoms back to what's actually going on biochemically.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the main players here. The hero, I guess. T3, tritothyronine.
Right, T3 is the active thyroid hormone. Think of it as the accelerator pedal for your entire metabolism. It's the signal that tells your cells, powerhouses, the mitochondria, okay, let's burn fuel, make energy, keep the mood stable, generate body heat. It's vital.
Got it, the gas pedal. So what's reverse T3 then, the brake?
That's a perfect analogy. Reverse T3 or RT3 is, well, it's almost a mirror image of T3. It looks very similar, and the body makes it deliberately, usually when it senses some kind of major stress.
But why would the body want to block the good stuff? Is that like a mistake?
Yeah.
Or is it trying to do something useful?
It is trying to be useful, but sometimes the context is wrong for our modern lives. The sources really stress that RT3 production is a protective mechanism. Think about major physical trauma, serious illness, even severe dieting or chronic psychological stress, high cortisol.
Okay.
In those situations, the body thinks, whoa, survival mode time, let's conserve energy. So it ramps up RT3 production to deliberately slow down the metabolic engine. It's like metabolic rationing.
Okay, so the problem isn't RT3 itself, but maybe the body making too much of it when it doesn't need to ration.
Precisely. And this leads to that cellular starvation idea. The cell surface has receptors, like docking stations, waiting for active T3.
Mhm.
But if the bloodstream is flooded with this lookalike RT3 because of stress,
Now cell gets confused.
exactly, it sees more RT3 floating by. So it pulls in
Mhm.
the RT3 molecule, thinking it's getting the active T3 it needs. But once that RT3 docks into the receptor site, it doesn't turn the key. It just sits there, blocking the active T3 from getting in and doing its job. It basically jams the ignition.
Wow. So you can have plenty of active T3 fuel circulating in your blood, but if the receptors are blocked by RT3, the cells can't use it.
Right. And that's why you can feel absolutely exhausted, cold, foggy, even when your free T3 and free T4 blood tests look, within range. The fuel isn't getting to the engine.
This makes so much sense for so many people's symptoms.
It really does.
Yeah.
That low metabolic state at the cellular level is where the fatigue, the brain fog, the feeling cold all the time comes from. And this brings us to the absolute key takeaway for anyone listening who feels this might be them.
Yeah.
You need to specifically ask your doctor for the T3 or RT3 ratio blood test. You'll need both free T3 and reverse T3 measured to calculate it.
Okay, so what's the magic number?
Mm.
Or the problematic number, I guess. What tells us the body's really hitting the brakes hard?
The sources are quite consistent on this. If your T3 to RT3 ratio is less than 10, that's a very strong sign. A ratio under 10 really indicates that your body may be T3 starved at the cellular level. It confirms that the RT3 braking mechanism is dominant, forcing your cells into that low-power resource rationing mode.
Here's where it gets really interesting,
Mm.
because we often think of thyroid issues as just energy or weight problems. But you're saying this cellular slowdown, this starvation, hits the nervous system too. And that might show up first as anxiety or mood issues.
Absolutely. T3 isn't just about metabolism. It's a crucial neuromodulator. It directly influences how excitable your central nervous system is. So when T3 levels are off, either genuinely too high or effectively too low inside the cell because RT3 is blocking the door, it's directly linked to significant anxiety, even panic attacks.
Okay, let's break that down. The sources talk about two different ways thyroid problems can trigger anxiety, right? Because they affect the nervous system differently.
Yes, exactly. It's important to distinguish them.
So first up, the classic one, hyperthyroidism, too much active T3. This causes anxiety. because the whole system is just
Sure.
overstimulated, right? The symptoms sound very physical, very intense.
Very physical. Think racing heart, palpitations, sweating, trembling, maybe shortness of breath. People often describe it as feeling wired but tired, like you're constantly on edge, maybe about to have a panic attack.
Why does that happen physically?
Well, that excess T3 makes your nerve receptors hypersensitive to stress hormones like adrenaline. It basically cranks up the volume on your adrenaline receivers, the beta adrenergic receptors. So even a normal little stress signal feels like a huge jolt of adrenaline keeping you stuck in that fight or flight state.
Okay, that makes sense. Wired. Now, what about the other side? Hypothyroidism, or specifically this cellular starvation state we've been talking about.
Right. Now, low thyroid function is often linked mainly with fatigue and depression, and that's true, but it also causes anxiety.
But it's a different flavor of anxiety.
Yes, typically. It's often more of a generalized anxiety, less like sudden panic, more like feeling emotionally fragile, maybe having intrusive thoughts you can't shake, wanting to withdraw socially, just feeling generally overwhelmed.
And where does that come from, if it's not overstimulation?
It seems to stem more from a neurochemical imbalance. When active T3 is low, or effectively low inside the cells, it messes with the production and balance of key neurotransmitters. We're talking about serotonin, dopamine, GABA, the chemicals that regulate mood, calmness, motivation. If T3 isn't there to help orchestrate them properly, anxiety can result from that deficiency.
Okay, so hyperanxiety is like a loud physical alarm bell from overstimulation.
Right.
And hypoanxiety, or the anxiety from cellular starvation, is maybe quieter, more internal, stemming from the brain just not having the right chemical balance for resilience.
That's a great way to put it. And understanding this difference is really vital when thinking about treatment or what
Yeah.
might be going on.
How so?
Well, if you're having that intense physical wired anxiety, maybe you're genuinely hyperthyroid or perhaps even over-medicated on thyroid hormone. But if you have more of that generalized anxiety, the intrusive thoughts, the fragility, alongside fatigue and other hyposymptoms, and maybe you're taking a T4 only medication like levothyroxine or Synthroid,
Yeah.
that anxiety could actually be a sign that your body isn't converting that T4 into active T3 very well. Maybe it's shunting too much towards reverse T3 instead.
Which brings us straight back to needing that reverse T3 test. It's not just optional, it seems essential to see if the body is actively applying the brakes and causing that low fuel state that messes with neurotransmitters.
Exactly. It's the piece that tells you if the problem is conversion and utilization, not just production.
Okay, so we've established TSH alone isn't enough. And the T3 to RT3 ratio is critical for understanding this cellular starvation picture.
Uh-huh.
What's the full list of tests someone should ideally ask for to get the complete picture?
Right. To really connect the dots, you ideally need the whole panel. Don't settle for just TSH. You absolutely need the basics. TSH, which is the pituitary signal, then free T4, the main storage hormone, and free T3, the active hormone. Those give you the starting point.
That's not enough.
No. The non-negotiable addition is reverse T3, RT3. You have to measure RT3 to calculate that crucial T3-RT3 ratio and see if the metabolic brakes are on.
And what about autoimmune issues, like Hashimoto's?
Crucial. You absolutely need the thyroid antibodies tested, specifically TPO-AB, thyroid peroxidase antibodies, and TG-AB, thyroglobulin antibodies. These tell you if your immune system is attacking your thyroid gland. That's Hashimoto's. And even if your TSH looks okay right now, active Hashimoto's involves inflammation that can cause wild swings in hormone levels and directly impact mood and conversion.
Okay, so TSH, free T4, free T3, reverse T3, and the two main antibodies. That seems comprehensive for the thyroid itself.
That covers the thyroid system well. But the sources also really emphasize looking beyond just the thyroid hormones. Other factors play huge roles.
Right, things that can make the fatigue and anxiety worse, even if the thyroid numbers look okay-ish.
Exactly. We need the broader metabolic context. So testing cortisol is important, and morning blood test is a start, but a 4-point saliva test gives a better picture of your daily rhythm.
Because high chronic stress and cortisol drive up that reverse T3, right?
Precisely. If your cortisol is chronically high, your body is basically stuck in that make RT3 slow everything down mode. And then absolutely critical are the nutrient cofactors. You have to look at iron status, specifically ferritin, which measures your stored iron.
Why is ferritin so important for thyroid?
This is huge. The enzyme that converts the inactive T4 into the active T3. It needs iron to work properly. If your ferritin is low, that conversion process stalls. So you might have plenty of T4, but you can't efficiently make the active T3 you need, which again pushes you towards that poor T3 to RT3 ratio and hyposymptoms.
Okay, ferritin.
Also, test vitamin B12 and vitamin D3. Deficiencies here are rampant, and they independently cause severe fatigue, neurological issues, and mood instability. They can perfectly mimic or worsen thyroid symptoms and anxiety.
And it's worth pointing out, right, we're often talking about optimal levels for these tests, not just the very wide normal lab ranges that are really designed to catch outright disease.
Absolutely. Functional medicine aims for optimal health and performance, not just the absence of diagnosed pathology. So getting these cofactors into a good, healthy range is key.
Makes sense. Did the sources mention any specific supports or treatments based on these findings?
They did touch on a few things. For that hyperanxiety, the really physical stuff, things like beta blockers can apparently work very quickly, sometimes within hours, to calm the racing heart and tremors while the underlying thyroid issue is addressed.
Okay, quick relief for the physical side.
Yeah. And for the hypotype anxiety, the kind linked to cellular starvation and neurotransmitter imbalance, the key is addressing the root cause, improving T3 availability at the cell level. For some patients, this might mean talking to their doctor about carefully adding a small dose of direct T3 medication, often starting very low, like 5 micrograms once or twice a day. If their RT3 is clearing and they handle it well, it's very individual.
And supplements.
Yes, things like magnesium glycinate are often mentioned for calming the nervous system overall. And L-theanine, which comes from green tea, can promote a sense of calm focus without making you drowsy. Useful for both types of anxiety, potentially.
Okay. So what does this all mean if we boil it down?
Yeah.
The main takeaway seems to be about empowerment, right? Knowing what to ask
Right.
for. You can feel awful, have those normal labs, but if you dig deeper and find that T3 toward RT3 ratio is under 10,
Then you have a potential answer. It means your cells might genuinely be running in survival mode, rationing energy, despite what the standard tests show.
it forces you, and hopefully your doctor, to think more critically about the symptoms. Is this anxiety coming from system overdrive, like in hyperthyroidism?
Right, the overstimulation pathway.
Or is it from that neurochemical soup being off balance because the cells are effectively starved of T3?
Exactly. Understanding the full panel, especially with reverse T3 in the mix, helps you pinpoint why you feel the way you do. Is it too much stimulation or not enough cellular energy and messed up neurotransmitters?
Okay, and here's a final thought to leave our listeners with. Something pretty interesting from the sources about managing symptoms. Even if someone has severe hyperthyroidism, where fully sorting out the anxiety and mood might take, say, 1 to 3 months after hormone levels stabilize.
Which is true, it takes time for the brain chemistry to normalize.
Right, but those really scary physical panic symptoms, the pounding heart, the shaking, those can often be brought under control much, much faster. Sometimes within hours, using things like those beta blockers we mentioned.
That's a really important point for quality of life.
Yeah. It highlights that you don't necessarily have to suffer through the worst physical parts for months while you're working on the underlying hormones. Targeted help can provide rapid relief for some of the most distressing symptoms, giving you breathing room to fix the root cause, something to definitely discuss with your doctor if you're in that situation.